For me, the theater is the space where I can put all these disciplines together in the real time, in the now, in the present, and then they are gone. It's something like came from a desire, and this desire provoked imagination in me. If you have something to say and if you have this fire inside you, the limit pushes you to go behind. I'm Silvia Costa, and I'm a director and also an actress. I'm Italian, I'm from Treviso, and I studied visual arts and theater, and then I started like very soon to work in theater. I worked like a very long time with Romeo Castellucci, but parallelly I was always creating my own work, my own path, so I'm still doing it. Actually, I stay behind the stage, and on stage I like to switch roles. And I started on stage, so it was my starting point. And because I was on stage, I started to have images, and I started to create my own performances, and then theaters, and now also operas. So I think it's something like came from a desire, and this desire provoked imagination in me. So I felt like the body always in my research. Also, when I was in the university, I was like, shall I draw? Shall I make pictures? Shall I do videos? I mean, it was super, like, you know, when you have to search for your identity. And finally, I like very fast understood that my medium, my material was my body. And then, so starting from what I can do on myself, then I developed my own vision and my own way to work with actors, and yeah, sometimes also with dancers. But I'm not a choreographer, even if like my shows are always they are very precise and written. There is like there is a code, actually. There is a language, and this language is precise and is written down like a choreography. And also there is a connection with the music that is very strong, and always have a very strong connection with the musician and composers. So basically they were always my strongest partner in my creations, because music really was, yeah, it was like an epiphany for my images. So some ideas come from a sound and vice versa. And now, like, working on opera, that is completely based on like listening and my approach to music. But I like the fact that I'm not professional. So there is an instinct guiding me in approaching the music, in creating a code, a sequence of movements. So there is this kind of sometimes it's tiring, but it's like okay, from where I start now. The piece I will present in the festival started from a wish to work on this text of a very, very known writer, Italian writer, Cesare Pavese. I discovered that text by chance, like the most beautiful things we can find in the world, by chance. It's happened by chance. So that text also I discovered by chance, and I think it was, I mean, it's written at dialogic form, but it was not meant to be a theater piece. So that was also for me a mystery, very, very precious. So to do that in a show, Pavese was rewriting some very known myths, others less known, but let's say that all the characters is like, yeah, come from mythological war, and the characters is a pre-classical war, so it's a war where sky, underworld and earth, they are all mixed, and like animals and human and inhuman, unhuman speak together. There are gods, there are semi-gods, there are humans, and all in mix. I liked a lot the fact that there was these polyformic forms of beings speaking and taking words. So on stage then there will be Laura and me. So there are in any case 2 characters. This the dialogic, the confrontation, let's say the exchange was the base of this work also. And I choose 6 dialogues. Was a kind of there was many interesting subjects, but for me it was important to create a kind of parabola, kind of path. So there are meetings with important moment of the life of human beings. So there is the getting to life, so the relationship with the mother, there is the death, there is the sexuality, there is the believing in another life or on gods. So there was this kind of main theme that can really touch the life of a human being. So it was a way to create a path with the audience through these figures that I raise all references or on like characters of the mythology. So I just kept the words. So like the name of where the audience can recognize, maybe they know by their own knowledge, but for me it was not important that is this specific character, because this made also the universality of myth, that still there is the language of the myth is super poetic, and the transformation, like also made by Pavese, become even more poetic. So there is a passage, and also I never allowed myself to work on this kind of subject because it was kind of too big, but because Pavese did it and he opened up something, I felt like, okay, then I take it and I try to do to give images to that. I like to use wrong object on stage and on theater, so maybe that language that was not meant to theater to be said but just read it, there was something I like that, because there was something like meant to another space, and I transform into theater. And for me, theater is the space where I can take all this discipline of arts, like because there is in my work there is an aspect very important on the space and on the creation of props, because the props are the trigger for actions, movement, symbols, also meanings. And so I start like sculpting the space, sculpting like the environment of the figure living on stage. So there is a connection with the visual arts and with the use of materials. And then, of course, there are sometimes the text. So what does it mean? Which words we choose to say to the audience. And then there are, of course, like the music, as said, and the bodies. So, and for me, the theater is the space where I can put all these discipline together in the real time, in the now, in the present, and then they are gone. They disappear. It's like a vision, and everybody keeps in the memory, because there's not really a real memory of what we do. We burn everything, and maybe this way of not leaving traces forever is something also that I like that. The first word I would say is mythological, because anyway this is the material. I think it's also feminine in the choice, in the presences, in the forms, in the shapes. It's geometric also. It's symmetric. It's symmetric. It's double. And is also mysterious. E Dio si riposò il settimo giorno is a biblical sentence. Actually, after Genesis of the world was 6 days, and then on the 7th, God rest. And yeah, I choose this reference because the second performance I present it started as an experiment and then I saw that was an experiment really working very well, because it spoke about representation, it spoke about intergeneration, it speak about how we look to the landscape. It speak about how we create memories. I mean, there was it's super simple. It's one gesture, it's one idea. It's super simple, but it was rich about all these subjects. And I will work with a family based in Belgium. And there is a grandmother, a grandmother, a mother, and a son. So there is really this line, and I ask them to paint together a landscape that they will choose. So, and they take the time they need. So there's no rehearsals, there's not preparation. I mean, there is a preparation because there is a work on sounds and on interviews I will be doing with them, asking simple things about describing what is the picture they choose, why they choose that, which is the connection through the family with this picture. And Nicola Ratti, that is the composer of 𝙙'𝙤𝙣𝙨 and also of this second performance. He will use the voice, and there is this kind of a construction of the sound and of the stories that this family is telling, and the creation of the image that is doing live in front of the audience. So it's a work where the audience can stay, go back and forward. It's like an installation and a performance like that you can see in a museum, but from my experience normally the people stay because there is this kind of meditational moment and this kind of a concentration also on our lives while this family is doing that. They are back to us, so we don't see their faces, so we can imagine that I mean, it's like if they are doing a picture, but they are a picture also for us. So, and you can be empathic with this picture if you think about your relatives and your story and your family, etc. So there is this connection for me very strong to what we can do together and why we have this kind of, we have an origin and we are going on to origin and leave traces and leave the space to who comes after us. But there is images and there are landscape that that we hold in our memories and we share. For me, the limit was always a starting point. I think I cannot start if I don't have my limit, my aim precise in my head or around me. So actually the limit is a potential. Can be whatever limits. I mean, is a limit on the space, a limit in the money. Now we speak so much about like the crisis, etc. So this limit make for me, I mean, if you have something to say and if you have this fire inside you, the limit push you to go behind and to work with this. For me, the limits were always something where I can, je peux m'appuyer en fait. It was always something I can be, like my support actually. Limit was my support, and I was always scaring of freedom. So even if, I mean, I'm always free in a way, so it's always limits that are created by ourselves. And so I think we are, I don't know, in this, there are limitations that are not good, like when it's like censored or something like that. But in the frame of art, I think to decide what to do and to be precise for me was was always a potential and something needed. I hope to see you to 𝙙'𝙤𝙤𝙪. It will be presented on the 13th October at Mercerie, e Dio si riposò il settimo giorno on the 14th October at 11:30 at Bob 361.